This field of filmmaking has changed drastically over the last couple of years. As smartphones and entry-level cameras have become more accessible, there's been a lot of a blurring of the lines of what a filmmaker is, what a cinematographer is, what a videographer is. I don't necessarily think they have to be mutually exclusive, but there are a few key differences that as your career progresses, I think you're going to want to know. So that's what we're going to tackle in this one today. So the first thing I want to make clear right off the bat is that there is not one right answer. One is not better than the other. I do think there are some differences. And like I said, I think each can pull from the other. But when it comes to cinematographers versus videographers, there are a few key differences you're going to want to know going forward. And as your career progresses, it's pretty likely that you're going to identify more with one than the other. So without further ado, let's figure out what those differences are. We'll start with videographers. In simplest terms, videographers are people who capture the world as it is around them. They're people who cover events, shows, concerts, weddings, things like that. Quite oftentimes, videographers will be in charge of social media content as well. On top of that, in my experience, videographers are often very skilled in the editing room as well and rely heavily on things like effects and those flashy cuts to engage your attention over a short amount of time. Videographers are concerned with capturing the best footage in any given environment as it presents itself. So I'm talking again, bar nights, sports things like that. And then with that footage they capture, they're gonna go into the editing room, make something high energy, high production value that really engages people's attention right off the bat. On the other hand though, we have what is called cinematographers who are more concerned with creating a world for their story or their project to live within. In particular, cinematographers are concerned with lighting, but they also worry about things like lens choice and how that manipulates their picture as well. In my experience, cinematographers tend to be employed a lot more often on things like narrative pieces, documentaries, music videos, things where there is a time and budget allotted to be able to make these decisions with lighting and lenses and things like that, and it's not necessarily a run and gun style. I'm coming up on about 5 years in this filmmaking career as a whole right now. And personally, I must say for the early portion of my career, I definitely identified more as a videographer. I say this because at the beginning, lighting wasn't a passion at all of mine, and my interest laid within entertaining people and capturing cool places as they presented themselves. Gigs were a lot easier to find, and I was consistently excited about creating content for individuals, brands, companies, things of that nature, where budgets and gear requirements were not nearly as high. This chapter in my career was definitely a ton of fun, and I met some of the most incredible people and had some of the best experiences I could ask for. In fact, looking at some of my favorite experiences that I've had, we're talking being on the sidelines of sports teams or meeting some of my favorite artists before their performances and then shooting that performance. This is all thanks to my work as a videographer specifically. Lately though, personally, my focus has shifted away from videography and much more towards the field of cinematography. And by lately, I mean maybe the last year and a half or 2 years. In particular, I've become fascinated with the art of storytelling and then figuring out how to light a scene, what lenses to use so that people can feel the emotion that I want them to feel. At this point in my career, it's not so much about entertaining, it's more about storytelling. We are undoubtedly living in a world of quick content where videographers are going to become more and more popular and more required. But at this point in time, I've made a conscious decision to take my career the opposite way. The point and shoot style videos, hype videos, things that you see on a Jumbotron at sports games, that was undoubtedly one of the funnest chapters of my career, but life has taken me in a different direction. But when I say these two career paths, I don't necessarily think are mutually exclusive of one another. What I mean by that is I don't think you have to make that distinction early on in your career at all. First and foremost, and I'll say this a ton, the number one thing to do in progressing your filmmaking career, whatever direction you want to go, is to just get on set and actually shoot things with people and of people who inspire you. In doing so, you're going to learn a lot and likely learn a lot of tips and tricks that help in both fields. For example, something like using the sun to backlight your subject would probably fall more under the realm of cinematography, but as a skilled videographer, you can take these tricks of the trade, if you will, and implement them into your work to further improve the quality of your footage. And then on the other hand, learning to shoot and edit in an efficient manner as a videographer is definitely going to help you as a cinematographer for very obvious reasons. Now, as I said, your preference towards one or the other could definitely change throughout your career, as is the case with me, as your kit develops and you get more experience. But the number one thing to do early in your career is to just get out and shoot. Get out there and start figuring it out for yourself what you really like to do. Something social media is very bad for in today's day and age is only showing you the end product and the version of things that people want you to see. Here's a little known secret about filmmaking. We all sucked when we started. But I know it's cliche, the only way to get better at it is by actually doing it. I hate to break it to you, you will fail at it, but get those failures out of the way early, fail forward, and progress your career faster that way. Learn from them and improve. If you love it, this career can truly open so many doors you didn't even know existed. Now, I can't sit here and tell you which path is right for you. Only you will know that through trial and error, as I mentioned. But I'm hopeful this at least provides some clarity as to what those fields may look like. All right, that's good enough.